In 1976, a mother in Ohio could keep 3 kids quiet for an entire Saturday afternoon with a jar of peanut butter, a loaf of bread, and whatever was already sitting in the back of the pantry. No trip to the store, no money spent. Total cost was about 12 cents. That snack is number 9 on this list, and the people who grew up eating it say nothing in a modern grocery aisle has ever come close. Number 17 was served at almost every church potluck in America for a decade and then vanished overnight. Number 5 was so simple that most people are embarrassed to admit they loved it. And number 1, the snack that defined an entire generation of latchkey kids, disappeared not because anyone stopped wanting it, but because the kitchen it came from no longer exists. These 25 snacks were never in a cookbook. They were never on a menu. They lived in the hands of mothers and grandmothers who turned almost nothing into something worth remembering. Before we begin, subscribe, because this list is going to unlock a part of your childhood you forgot you still carried. Let us count them down. Number 25. Butter and syrup on bread. White bread, a smear of butter, and a slow pour of cheap pancake syrup, not maple, the imitation kind that came in a plastic bottle shaped like a cabin. The syrup soaked into the bread within seconds, turning it into something between French toast and a crepe. It was eaten cold and held carefully because it dripped. A bottle of log cabin syrup cost about 59 cents in 1974 and lasted a month. Children made this without asking permission, standing at the counter on tiptoe, and ate it over the sink because they knew better than to sit down with it. Nobody taught them. They just figured it out the way every kid in a working-class kitchen figured things out, by opening the pantry and improvising. Number 24. Graham crackers and frosting. A box of honey-made graham crackers cost about 45 cents. A tub of Betty Crocker frosting, when it went on sale, cost 69 cents. You snapped a graham cracker in half and spread frosting on one side with a butter knife, then pressed the other half on top. That was it, a sandwich cookie that tasted better than anything Nabisco was selling in a package. The frosting was thick enough to hold, and the graham cracker was sturdy enough to not crumble. Some kids doubled the frosting, some added a layer of peanut butter underneath. The whole operation took about 20 seconds, and nobody called it baking. But it was the closest thing to a bakery cookie that a lot of those kids ever got on an ordinary Tuesday. Number 23. Cheese toast. A slice of white bread. A single slice of American cheese, the individually wrapped kind. Kraft singles, which cost about $1.19 for a pack of 16 in 1975. Under the broiler until the cheese bubbled and the edges went brown and slightly crispy. That was the entire recipe. The cheese fused to the bread so that pulling it apart made long, thin strings. The bottom of the bread stayed soft. The top was a landscape of golden blisters. Every kid in America ate this after school at least once a week, and most ate it 3 or 4 times. It cost about 8 cents per slice. It took 90 seconds, and it disappeared from the national habit, not because anything replaced it, but because the broiler became something people forgot they had. Number 22. Apple slices with cinnamon sugar. An apple cost about 15 cents. You sliced it on a cutting board, fanned the slices on a plate, and sprinkled them with the same cinnamon sugar mixture every household kept in a shaker near the stove. The cinnamon clung to the wet surface of the apple. The sugar dissolved slightly where it touched. That was the snack pediatricians actually approved of. Mothers who could not afford fruit cups or juice boxes handed their kids a plate of this and felt no guilt. The apple did the work. The cinnamon sugar made it feel like a reward instead of a lecture about vitamins. When pre-packaged apple slices arrived in plastic bags with caramel dipping sauce 20 years later, they solved a problem that a knife and a shaker had already solved for a fraction of the price. Number 21st. Toast with butter and honey. Honey was always in the house. A jar of clover honey cost about 59 cents in 1973 and seemed to last forever because you used it a teaspoon at a time. Hot toast, real butter melting into the surface, then a drizzle of honey that pooled in the craters where the butter had sunk in. The combination of warm bread, salt from the butter, and raw sweetness from the honey created something that belonged in a French cafe but lived in a kitchen in Indiana. Old men still eat this. They eat it standing at the counter the way they ate it when they were 9, and they will tell you with absolute certainty that nothing has changed about the way it tastes. They are right. Nothing has. Number 20. Marshmallows toasted over the stove burner. Before fire pits became backyard furniture, there was a gas burner and a fork. You stabbed a marshmallow, held it over the open flame, and turned it slowly until the outside went golden brown and the inside collapsed into hot liquid sugar. A bag of Kraft marshmallows cost about 35 cents and contained enough for a dozen kids to ruin a dozen forks. The kitchen smelled like campfire for an hour afterward. Mothers hated the sticky residue on the burner grate. Children did not care. The charred outside and molten inside of a stovetop marshmallow had a texture that no s'more kit or gourmet marshmallow has ever matched. You needed nothing but a gas stove and a willingness to get yelled at. Most kids had both. Number 19. Buttered saltines. Not the same as crackers and butter. Different. Buttered saltines meant stacking. You buttered one cracker, placed another on top, buttered that one, and stacked again. 3 or 4 high, then eaten in one architectural bite. The butter between each layer acted as mortar. The stack held together just long enough to get it to your mouth. This was a project, the kind of quiet, focused activity a kid did at the kitchen table while a parent was on the phone. A box of saltines and a stick of butter. Total cost about 50 cents. Total entertainment value 30 minutes of silent concentration, which in 1974 was worth more than anything in a toy store. Number 18. Leftover biscuit with jelly. Canned biscuits, Pillsbury, the ones in the cardboard tube you popped against the counter edge, cost about 29 cents for a tube of 10. Whatever didn't get eaten at dinner sat on the counter under a towel until the next afternoon. A cold, leftover biscuit, split open and spread thick with grape jelly, was a snack that had absolutely no business tasting as good as it did. The biscuit was denser cold, almost chewy, and the jelly sank into the crumb. A jar of Welch's grape jelly ran about 45 cents. Children ate these without plates, standing in the kitchen doorway, disappearing the evidence before anyone noticed 2 biscuits were missing. Pattern break 1. Here is what nobody talks about. The mothers who made these snacks were solving an engineering problem every single day. Caloric density per penny. Preparation time under 2 minutes because there were other children to watch. Laundry to fold. A second shift to get to. Shelf stability because payday was Thursday and this was Monday. These were not random combinations. They were optimized solutions discovered through years of daily repetition. A mother in 1974 did not have a smartphone with a recipe app. She had a pantry, a clock, and 3 hungry kids. Every snack on this list is the answer to that equation, and every one of them worked. Number 17. Jell-O eaten before it's set. You were supposed to wait 4 hours. Nobody waited 4 hours. The moment the Jell-O went into the refrigerator, the countdown began, not to when it was ready, but to when you could get away with eating it still liquid. About 90 minutes in, it reached the stage between liquid and solid, thicker than juice, not yet firm, trembling in the bowl like something alive. That was the sweet spot. You spooned it out cold and half set, and it slid across your tongue in a way that fully set Jell-O never did. A box of Jell-O cost 11 cents. It came in flavors that tasted nothing like the fruit on the box, and children preferred every single one of them to actual fruit. The waiting was supposed to teach patience. It taught resourcefulness instead. Number 16. Bread heels with butter. The end pieces of the loaf, the ones nobody wanted for sandwiches. In a household where waste was not an option, those heels got buttered and eaten as snacks. The heel was denser than a regular slice, with a thicker crust that held butter differently. The butter sat on the surface longer, creating a slick layer instead of soaking in. Some families toasted the heels first, turning them into something almost like a crouton, crunchy, golden, substantial. Others ate them soft, the butter melting just enough to make the dense bread feel rich. The bread heel was the last soldier in the bag, and in a home where a loaf had to stretch from Monday to Friday, it was never thrown away. It was always eaten by someone, usually standing at the counter, alone. Number 15. Frozen grapes. Pull grapes off the stem, wash them, spread them on a cookie sheet, and freeze for 2 hours. That was all. A bag of grapes cost about 49 cents a pound in 1975. Frozen, they became something else entirely. The skin tightened, the interior went slushy and intensely sweet, somewhere between a popsicle and candy. Children ate them by the handful, rolling them around in their mouths until the ice crystals dissolved and the grape flavor rushed in. No sugar added, no processing, no wrapper. This was the snack that mothers discovered by accident, a bag of grapes forgotten in the back of the freezer and then made on purpose for the rest of the decade. It required no money beyond what the grapes cost and no skill beyond the ability to wait 2 hours. In the Deep South, particularly in Mississippi and Alabama, this was not a novelty. It was a legitimate snack with a following. You drained half the brine from a jar of dill pickles, poured in a packet of Kool-Aid and a cup of sugar, sealed the jar, and waited 2 days. The pickles turned bright red or purple or green depending on the flavor. They tasted like nothing your brain could categorize: sour, sweet, fruity, and briny all at once. A jar of pickles cost about 45 cents. A packet of Kool-Aid cost a nickel. Children in certain neighborhoods knew exactly which corner store sold them pre-made, 2 for a quarter. The rest of the country has only recently discovered what Southern kids knew in 1973, that a pickle soaked in cherry Kool-Aid is one of the most confusing and addictive things a human mouth can experience. Number 13. Cornbread with honey butter. Leftover cornbread from last night's supper, sliced thick and spread with butter that had been mixed with honey, equal parts stirred together until it turned into a pale golden cream. The cornbread absorbed the honey butter like a sponge. The sweetness cut the corn flavor perfectly. A batch of cornbread cost about 12 cents to make from scratch. The honey butter was an afterthought, something a grandmother invented because plain butter on plain cornbread needed something, and honey was already on the shelf. Nobody published this combination, nobody marketed it. It existed in the space between meals, in the late afternoon, in the quiet minutes when a child wandered into the kitchen and someone who loved them handed over a piece of yesterday's bread made better than it was the night before. Peel a banana, stick a popsicle stick or a butter knife handle into one end, wrap it in wax paper, freeze it for 3 hours. A bunch of bananas cost about 15 cents a pound. Frozen, the banana became dense and creamy, almost like ice cream in texture, with a sweetness that concentrated as the water in the fruit crystallized. Some families dipped them in chocolate syrup before freezing. A bottle of Hershey's cost about 49 cents. Some rolled them in crushed peanuts. Most just froze them plain because plain was all the budget allowed, and plain was enough. This was the dessert that replaced ice cream on the weeks when ice cream wasn't possible. It worked, not as a substitute, as the thing itself. Number 11. Fried egg sandwich. 2 slices of white bread, 1 fried egg, salt and pepper, sometimes ketchup, sometimes a slice of American cheese melted over the egg while it was still in the pan. Eggs cost about 69 cents a dozen in 1975, which meant a single egg cost less than 6 cents. This was the snack that became dinner on nights when dinner did not happen, when the car broke down, when overtime ran late, when the grocery money was already spent. A fried egg sandwich is still the fastest real meal in America. The egg cooks in 90 seconds. Assembly takes 30 more. And the combination of runny yolk soaking into soft white bread is a sensory experience that no drive-through window has ever come close to replicating. Pattern break 2. Here is a number worth remembering. In 1977, the average American family spent 31% of its income on housing and 18% on food. Today, housing takes 33%. Food takes less than 10%. We got cheaper food. What we lost was the knowledge of what to do with basic ingredients when that was all there was. The snacks on this list required no recipe, no equipment beyond a stove and a knife, and no ingredient that cost more than $1. They required something else, a person in the kitchen who knew without thinking how to turn bread and butter and whatever was in the pantry into something a child would eat without complaint. That knowledge was not taught in schools, it was transferred by presence, and when the kitchens emptied, the knowledge went with them. In the South, pimento cheese was not a recipe, it was a birthright. Grated sharp cheddar, a jar of diced pimentos drained dry, enough Hellmann's mayonnaise to bind it, salt, pepper, a dash of cayenne if the family leaned that way, mixed in a bowl and spread on Ritz crackers. A block of sharp cheddar cost about $1.19. A small jar of pimentos was 29 cents. The mayonnaise was already in the fridge. This spread showed up at every funeral, every church lunch, every back porch gathering from Virginia to Texas. It was the thing you made when company came, and you had 2 hours notice and $11. On a Ritz cracker, with the butter in the cracker meeting the fat in the mayonnaise, and the sharpness of the cheddar cutting through everything, it was perfect. The fancy restaurants that now charge $14 for a plate of pimento cheese are serving the same thing your grandmother made in 1971. She just never thought to call it artisanal. Number 9. Peanut butter and honey on bread. Not a sandwich. A single slice, open-faced, so the honey could be drizzled in a pattern. Peanut butter spread thick, then a slow ribbon of honey laid across the top. The honey sat on the surface of the peanut butter, pooling in the valleys where the knife had left ridges. You folded the slice in half and ate it. The peanut butter stuck to the roof of your mouth while the honey dissolved. A jar of peanut butter lasted 2 weeks. A jar of honey lasted a month. This snack could be assembled by a 6-year-old with no supervision, which is exactly what happened in millions of American homes between 3:30 and 5 o'clock every weekday afternoon, when the house was empty and the school bus had just left. The latchkey generation didn't starve, it improvised. Number 8. Canned fruit cocktail, cold, Del Monte fruit cocktail in heavy syrup. About 39 cents a can in 1974. Open the can, pour the fruit into a bowl, and eat it cold with a spoon. That was the dessert. The syrup was thick and sweet enough to make the pale pear cubes and the single maraschino cherry taste like something special. Children fought over the cherry. In every can there was exactly 1, maybe 2, and whoever got it won an unspoken competition that happened at kitchen tables across America. The grapes were always slightly too firm. The peaches were always slightly too soft. None of it mattered. A can of fruit cocktail on a hot afternoon, pulled from the refrigerator where it had been chilling since morning, was a luxury that cost the same as a candy bar but felt like more. It felt like someone had planned something nice for you. A roll of Hickory Farm summer sausage, the kind that showed up in gift boxes at Christmas and then lived in the refrigerator until March. Sliced into thin rounds and laid on a Ritz cracker with a slice of cheddar cut from the block. The sausage was smoky, peppery, dense, and dry enough to keep for weeks without going bad. The cracker was buttery, the cheese was sharp. Each assembly took about 5 seconds, and a plate of 10 of them looked like something a hostess would put out for company. But this was not company food. This was Thursday after school food, assembled on the counter by a 12-year-old who had been trusted with a knife. The summer sausage always appeared at Christmas. The habit of eating it on crackers lasted the whole year. That was the point of the gift box. It introduced a snack that the family would then buy on its own. Number 6. Peanut butter rolled in a tortilla. In the Southwest, flour tortillas were the bread. A package of 12 cost about 35 cents. Spread peanut butter across the surface, roll it tight, eat it like a cigar. Some families added honey. Some added banana slices that turned the roll lumpy and sweet. Some just ate it plain. The chew of the tortilla against the density of the peanut butter, requiring real effort from the jaw, which made it feel more substantial than it was. This was the portable snack, the one that went into pockets and brown bags and was eaten while walking somewhere. A tortilla and peanut butter could survive a backpack for 6 hours without spoiling. That made it the most reliable snack in any working-class household with kids who disappeared after breakfast and didn't come home until the streetlights turned on. Number 5. Buttered rice with sugar. Leftover white rice from dinner still in the pot, reheated with a splash of milk and a pat of butter. Stir until the butter melts. Spoon it into a bowl and sprinkle white sugar across the top. This was rice pudding for people who did not have time for rice pudding. The milk made it creamy, the butter made it rich. The sugar on top crunched slightly before dissolving into the warm surface. A 5-pound bag of rice cost about 69 cents and lasted 2 weeks. This snack cost almost nothing to make because the rice was already there, already cooked, already paid for. The butter and sugar and milk transformed leftovers into something a child would ask for by name. That transformation, taking what was already spent and making it into something wanted, was the quiet genius of every kitchen on this list. Number 4. Popcorn balls with Karo syrup. Stovetop popcorn, freshly popped, drizzled with hot Karo corn syrup, and shaped by hand into balls while still warm. The syrup cooled and hardened into a shell that crackled when you bit through it, revealing the soft popcorn inside. A bag of popping corn was about 35 cents. The Karo was 49 cents. You could make a dozen popcorn balls for under $1. Church bake sales sold them for a nickel apiece, wrapped in wax paper. Halloween brought them to the door in the years before sealed packaging became mandatory. The secret was working fast. The syrup cooled within 2 minutes, and once it set, you could not reshape it. Mothers did this with bare hands, pulling and pressing the hot mixture while their children watched, learning without knowing. They were learning that some things required speed and tolerance for discomfort and the willingness to just do it. Number 3. Grilled cheese dipped in tomato soup. Campbell's condensed tomato soup cost about 15 cents a can. 2 slices of bread, butter, and a slice of American cheese made a grilled cheese sandwich for about 12 cents. Together they cost less than 30 cents and fed a child completely. The grilled cheese went into the soup like a soldier going into battle. 1 corner first, soaking for exactly 3 seconds, then pulled out dripping orange red. The bread absorbed the soup. The cheese stretched. The combination of tangy tomato and melted American cheese and butter-fried bread created a flavor so deeply embedded in American childhood that people who haven't eaten it in 30 years can taste it right now reading this. It was not gourmet. It was not clever. It was correct in the way that only food made in a kitchen at 4 in the afternoon, for no reason other than someone was hungry, can be correct. The soup companies still exist. The cheese still exists. But the ritual of standing at the stove, making this for someone small, that is the part going extinct. Number 2. Cinnamon toast with apple butter. Apple butter was the preserve Appalachian families made in copper kettles every fall, cooked for hours until the apples turned dark and spreadable and deeply spiced. A jar from the store cost about 45 cents in 1974, though most families who ate it regularly made their own. On warm toast with a layer of butter underneath, apple butter became something that didn't need a name. It was just the best thing in the kitchen. The apple flavor was concentrated and caramelized. The cinnamon and clove in the butter met the heat of the toast. Store-bought apple butter started disappearing from mainstream grocery shelves in the 1980s as jam and jelly varieties multiplied. With it went the toast ritual, the specific combination of hot bread, cold butter, and room-temperature apple butter that required 3 things from 3 different temperatures to come together correctly. That was too many steps for the decade that invented the microwave. Number 1. The after-school kitchen raid. This is not a single snack. This is the act itself. The moment a child walked through the door, dropped a backpack on the floor, and opened the refrigerator with no plan. A spoonful of peanut butter, eaten standing up. A slice of cheese, folded in half and gone in 2 bites. 3 crackers. A handful of cereal, straight from the box. The heel of the bread with nothing on it. A cold hot dog from last night. A glass of milk that finished the carton. None of it was a recipe. All of it was dinner's understudy. This happened between 3:30 and 5 o'clock in every working-class home in America throughout the entire 1970s, and it was the most honest eating any of us ever did. There was no performance, no presentation, no one watching, just hunger and whatever was there. The kitchen raid disappeared when kitchens stopped being left unguarded, when after-school programs extended the day, when both parents' schedules shifted, when the pantry stopped being a place a child explored alone. What was lost was not a snack. What was lost was the independence of standing in a quiet kitchen at age 8 and deciding for yourself what to eat next. That small freedom tasted better than anything on this list. That is 25. Every one of them real. Every one of them cheap. Every one of them made by someone who understood that a child with a full stomach is a child with a fighting chance. If one of these sent you back to a kitchen you thought you'd forgotten, tell me which one in the comments. Share this with someone who grew up on crackers and peanut butter and turned out just fine. And subscribe, because this channel remembers the food nobody wrote down, and somebody should.